Welcome back to Sipas Garage. There's no more snow on the roads, or at least the main ones here, so it's time to get this E30 of mine back on road. There's a couple of things that we need to do, at least finish the front end alignment, everything there. But there's also some smaller things, like for example the Finnish MOT check, they did update the rules, and nowadays you cannot have water like this in the lights, and I think there's also a rule that there shouldn't be cracks in the lights also. So as you can see, these are pretty much full of water, and there's a lot of cracks in these old taillights. So I have much better ones, those are used, but those are free of cracks, and I hope that they keep the water outside. So let's get these off, then polish the new ones and put those back in and continue from there. That looks really nice in my opinion. It's not perfect, but yeah, there's no more cracks or anything, and those are like almost perfect, so fine for this car. Let's check how those look with whites on. Oh, that's really good. I don't know if that shows on camera, but those are now really even color. It might be that the camera gets it wrong, but both of these lights are now really even color. Previously with the old ones with the water inside, that one was really dim and totally different looking than that one. But now at least on my eyes, both of those look totally identical, so that's problem solved too. Okay, that's now done. You can see I have the old stock steering wheel here. If you remember, I have had the MTEX2 steering wheel in this, but that was really badly worn around here and pretty much everywhere. So I did send that to be refurbished in German company. I think it was called Lehrerlenkrad.de, and it's here. And for that 200 euros that this cost, this looks absolutely perfect. For once I can say that this is absolutely perfect. I cannot find any mistakes here. So this is perfect job. So let's install this steering wheel now. I think this looks like now really nice, and it fits the insides just perfectly. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. You have all the M colors with stitch in here and everything. So yeah, that's really good. I still need to do something for the seat, but that's not for today. So that will be left like that. But yeah, that's how the steering wheel looks like. It's unfortunately the 385mm version, not the 370, but those smaller ones, they seem to cost like fortune these days, so yeah, I will be keeping this one unless I can find the smaller one really cheaply, but yeah, I'm not paying that 500-600 euro those are worth today, so I will be keeping that larger one until I find the smaller one for cheap enough price. But yeah, let's move to the brakes. Those are all together now, but there was some vibration when braking using these brake discs. I'm pretty sure that the vibration is because of that ball joint on the other side that had some play on it. But I'm not going to risk that, so I will just in case swap to the new rotors. These are like 30 euros a piece, so not a huge investment to change those just in case. These have plenty of surface or everything, but I'm afraid that these are warped because of that joint there, so I will replace those. Unfortunately, this is not straight swap. I need to turn this hole a little bit larger and then also take a little bit out from the outside surface because it was hitting here on these parts. So yeah, let's do that now and then move to the steering alignment. 66mm and 285. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine for brake disc. So this is the setup to check the pump steer. So I have this cat laser here pointing towards this cardboard box and I have removed the spring here. So when I pump this up and I need to maybe tape this button so that I can see the laser pointing there. But when I pump this up with the jack here, the laser should draw a straight line, so showing that there's no bump steer. But if it's going sideways, that means that I need to adjust this angles of these tie rods here to make that go straight. Okay, sorry, I noticed that the original video, it kind of sucked, or it was really difficult to follow what is happening. So I'm now shooting this much later. So the thing is that you can adjust the pump steer using those spacers on the tie rod ends on these MRT engineering kits. And it was actually really easy to adjust the pump steer to work correctly with those. But the problem was that these rims that I have, even though these are 16 inch, they are made around the 14 inch E30 bottle caps. So the inner dimensions are not what you usually have in these kind of 16 inch rims. So this outer tie rod end, it was really hardly hitting the rim. So I couldn't use my rims that I have for this car. So I had to get creative. So what I did mess around with these spacers. So I basically have 1 centimeter down here and another centimeter up here for the steering rack, and I did then shorter these outer tie rod ends and play around with that. So with that I got the pump steer to work quite well, so that this doesn't hit the rim. It's really close but it doesn't hit, and also this steering rack is really close to the oil pan but it's not hitting. So on the end I got this working quite well, but of course it required quite a bit of work to get to that point. But you can see the result on the video what I did got with this setup. And you also might be noticing that this is not the steering rack I had had on the video earlier. So it was from E36, and when I started driving this car, it was first okay, but then it started making some noises. It was sometimes stiff, sometimes really loose, and so on. So I did swap that later for this E46 rack with the E46 tie rod ends, and after that it has been fine. But yeah, let's continue to the actual timeline of the video. Eikä muutaman millin kääntyy, kun se menee tohon pohjalyöntikumia vasten, vai eipä se siinä asti pitäisi ikinä mennä.
Saa aina töyssy olla.
Ja sit varsinkin nyt kun tukivarot on vaihdettu ja tuo vaka-ajan tullaan paremmin, niin pitäisi kallistellakin vähemmän, ettei se pitäisi mennä tuonne. Joo, ihan just. Yritän tämän tästä kiinni. Everything is now ready here. All the things should be now tight and where they should be. I still need to do the final toe in alignment once I have this on the ground. Now it's like roughly there, but now before I lower this to the ground and do that, I will swap the water pump. So I need to remove the radiator to get to the water pump and then swap it out. Okay, even though it looks like this is a little bit worn and there's some play, it looks like that it hasn't leaked from the shaft, but this is so dirty and moist here. So I think it has been leaking from this seal. This is pretty hard and squeezed, so yeah, I think this seal has been the one that has been leaking because it's so wet here. So yeah, I will throw the new one in. Let's hope that fixes the coolant leak. That was a bit of a struggle to get that water pump changed. The water pump itself was easy, but this radiator system of mine with the fans and everything is total pain to get in and out, but that's in. I have also put the fluids in the engine, so let's try to start it. This will be first start after winter, so let's see what happens. The power steering fluid should be fine now, and also the coolant. I did clean up a little bit the engine bay, also the floor. I still need to do the final alignment for the toe in, and I think we are then ready to go on road. So yeah, let's do the final alignment. Well, that was annoying, but it's now done. These are really handy systems that Petri had bought. So this, you just lay these against the tires. You can see the camber here. I just checked that is still what it should be. And then you can see the toe in here, so this is to be dead on 170 millimeters, and this is 171 or 2, something like that. So there's now a little bit toe in there. It should be fine. I did also put bar here to check against the car chassis, because even like now there's a little bit toe in. It could be that the tires are totally like this, both of those, and the distance between those is still the same. So I did use bar here against the door on both sides, so that's exactly the same. So we should be now having like little bit of toe in, and that should be fine. If it feels fine, I will probably drive it like that, and if it doesn't, then I will get this to the propel alignment. But yeah, that's there. So I will do one more nut and bolt check, and let's go drive this.
Jarrujen polto vedetään sillä, ettei tutta liikkeelle. Perustaa teitä.
And it's now a couple of months later, and actually the summer is starting to end and it's turning into autumn, but yeah. This has been a bit late because I wanted to actually know how well these mods that I did to this car, how well these work. And first of all, the baffling for the oil pan, that has worked great. I haven't had any oil pressure problems after doing that. I haven't attended any track days, I haven't got time, but of course I did go to the Pimmer party and otherwise try to trash this car, and there's no oil pressure problems at all, even when the engine is hot, so the new oil is also doing what it should do, so that's fine. Then what else? Those MRT engineering steering parts, those have been really great. Like I couldn't imagine how much better this car would be with those parts, because previously every time I was trying to corner this car like harder, it felt like this whole like outer corner of the car is totally sinking, and especially if there's like bumps in the road, it was like totally all over the place with the stock suspension. But now with the MRT engineering steering parts, I can like really lean on the corners hard, and this feels like totally normal. Nothing strange in this, so I'm really happy with that. I'm going here. So yeah, those have worked great. I was a little bit afraid that those are, because those are like metal against mechanical, or I don't know about those uniball joints that are there. metal against metal. But anyways, I was really afraid that those are really noisy and hard and everything in a street car. But actually this feels that this has been quieter with those parts than with the stock parts. Of course, there was that one loose joint there that probably made some extra noise. So now when that loose joint is no more there, this is much more quieter to drive. Of course, this is a really noisy car that I don't know if you have the stock sound deadening and everything in the car, how it will affect there. But with this car, I'm really happy. Only really problem has been that the outer tie rod ends, they started making some noise, like being too tight. But I did clean up those, and after that, those has been fine. So yeah, just little bit tweaking. So I can really recommend using those MRT Engineering steering pads if you have some kind of problems with the steering. Of course, those don't solve every problem you can have. Like for example, they still have some. Even though this steering feels pretty much perfect, there's still a little bit like I can solve in this turnabout here. Like when I leave the steering wheel, it doesn't center automatically like that. So that's one thing I still want to fix this, and that's most likely because there's not enough caster in the front suspension. I already have those eccentric bus pushes here, but those didn't give enough caster for this setup, and I cannot put any more there because the tires are already hitting the wheel well in the front. So because those eccentric pushes, they will move the front tires towards the front of the car. So I cannot do that anymore. So I think I still need to add those kind of caster adjustment top hats to move the strut mode towards the driver and gain more caster from that. But yeah, other than that, this steering feels pretty much perfect, so only a little bit tweaking to do. But yeah, that's about the mods. Of course, I did change the steering wheel. This new one looks really great. But again, the problem is that this is the bigger version. I'm still trying to look for the smaller one, the 370mm one that is in the E30 originally. But let's see if I can find that anywhere. And what else? Well, I did also add that screen there. That's the Gauge.S from Sorek. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. But anyways, that's the same screen that I did install to my E36 cluster in the previous episode. But that is the newer version that also has the accelerometer in that. So you can do this. So maybe we have green light. So yeah, you can see how the car is accelerating and decelerating and how much key forces you have in the corners and everything. So that's really neat feature of that thing. But I did put this here mainly because you might be seeing that my temp gauge for the oil is totally dead. So I needed to have some way to see the oil temps. So that's now there just temporarily. I will later move this inside this cluster to replace that broken oil temp gauge. But before that happens, it will stay there with that pretty crude looking 3D print that I made, because I had this in the E36 cluster version. If you want one of these, I will put link in the description. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all from this time. This car has worked great, it feels great, it pulls nicely, and like this is really easy car to drive. This is like almost like a stock car on the road. Of course, you can light up the tires every time you want, but yeah, I think like this car like now starts to be finished. Only problems really this has is that like the steering doesn't center as much I would like, and of course there's not enough traction for all the power this engine makes. So those two things will be probably something we will deal next winter. But yeah, let's see. There's not much I can do the traction other than different tires and things like that. So let's see. But yeah, I think this video was about here. So let's end here.